shop, and welcome to this, the first video of the build of the MAXI CNC Router, which is going to be a full size, just over half a sheet size, which is 4 foot by 5 foot in this case, as it's about the biggest thing I can get in my shop, other than moving some of the other equipment out. And this is the biggest CNC router that you could probably reasonably build using ball screws. Now I've got 95% of the parts here on the bench. All the stepper motors and drivers here, and also power supplies. I'm putting 2 power supplies in. Spindle and VFD driver. And of course, underneath here is the aluminium extruded gantry. These boxes here contain the linear square rails for all axes, and ball screws. And like I say, the longest ball screws here are 1500, 5 foot long. You wouldn't want to go any longer than that. Okay? There's technical reasons why, but we'll get more into that later on through the build. I like my machines on wheels, so I've got a pair of solid type wheels that don't turn, and a pair of lock-in wheels that do turn. That's the system I always find works for me in my shop. Each one of these wheels is capable of 100 kilos of weight. 400 kilos, it's not going to be that. Probably 200, 250 kilos maybe. And of course the main structure, which is the steel work. So that's what we're going to be starting to do in this video, is the main structure of the chassis. Now I'm going to be building this, I suppose, a little bit like a Land Rover Defender. Tough and dependable. And let's face it, if you're going to invest somewhere in the region of $3,000 into a CNC router machine to build yourself, then you want it tough, you want it right. So that's what we're going to do. So now we're going to start measuring up and pre-cutting parts before we start welding up. Just a little tip when you're working with RHS. There's a seam weld here. Okay, you might just be able to make out the weld just inside there. So it's slightly, very, very slightly risen there. So you need to face this away from any material that you're going to, sort of mate to it, because it might, hold it up a little bit. So just turn the seam away from a mating surface. Okay, this is a bit heavy. It's about 25 kilos. Now, why I brought this up to show you is there's the seam in this case, and there's the weld. You can make out the weld there. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to face this down because, let's get this off my shoulder, there it is. Because you don't want to go drilling and tapping through a weld, because you could end up busting your tap off. Because when they seam weld it, it changes the structure of the steel at the weld, and it could harden it. And you could have problems when you've got to tap a thread in it, or even drill a hole in it. It has happened to me. Now I'm actually using my bench as a jig because I know this bench is pretty damn square. Now the only problem comes into being is whether the concrete that it stood on is square, and it's holding this out of line slightly or warping it. That's the only concern I've got. So, but we can correct that, and I will show you how to do that. Now, in between here, that's the important measurement. I'm looking for 1220. So they're actually absolutely square. So, the more you can keep it square, the better off you're going to be. In other words, the less you're going to have to machine out of your bed to make it absolutely square. So the trick is to get it as square as you can right from the very beginning. I've turned my filming spotlights out as well, so you might be able to see the laser. It's okay. It's reading 9 millimeters, 6 millimeters, 11 millimeters, 9 millimeters. Okay, I've just spent 10 minutes running around each corner and packing up. So now we've got to get it square. Okay, so that means this corner is too far forward that way. So this corner's got to be pushed back that way, and this has got to stay still. Don't belt it, just tap it, that's all. That should be it. Okay, so now we come to the tricky part of welding, of this project anyway, which is the MAXI CNC router, which is a 4 foot by 5 foot or 1200 by 1500 working table. So what I need to do now is fully weld around each one of these chassis members then to this Y-axis chassis rail. Now I have to weld it and keep it absolutely 90 degrees. Now I've got a lot of clamps on it, which is going to help. And at the moment it is exactly 90 degrees. Now what I intend to do is put 4 tacks around each joint then, both sides. I'm just going to work on one side first, then the other side. But as you tack weld it and the weld cools, it may tend to pull it one direction or the other. So we're going to have to watch that. So a little bit of messing around, and what I'll be doing is sort of welding a section here then move in to another part and weld in a section, and move in again and weld in a section, probably alternate sides, one on this side, the next one up on this side, to even the expanding and contraction out, because as each part expands and contracts, it'll move this only very, very slightly. But if you just sort of started here, fully welded this one, fully welded that one, and so on and so forth, it might bend over and over and over and over. That's what we've got to avoid. So let's get on with it. I think I just ran out of wire. I haven't run out of wire at all, but you can see what's happened here. A nice big tangle. What has happened, I think, that for some reason or other it got a little bit hard for the motor, feed motor here, to push the wire up through, and of course this thing just kept on pushing it through, and it just got coiled up here. So now I've got to undo all this, cut that off, pull it out of the sleeve there, and rethread it back up. This sometimes happens, rarely, but you've seen it happen live. Okay, and when you have finished welding your MAXI chassis up, your welds should look something like this. Okay, and if you weld it like I've demonstrated, you should end up with it nice and square. Check the other side. Of course, I'm going in at a little bit of an angle because I can't get this right up in there, so got no option but to go in a slight angle. But I got a flat here that I know it's square on here, so absolutely square. Weld it up. So the next job now is to put weld the legs on and put the wheels on. I might put the wheels on first, then weld the legs on. But then the chassis will be done. Okay, I'll bring you in for a bit of a closer look at that so you can see what I mean by extending this out to the full 100mm. And that's what it looks like from around here. So this is going to be welded up here, around here, here. Probably do a vertical down, and you know, all the way around on this. And then on the inside here, top, bottom, vertical up, and along here. Probably won't, it's not necessary to weld the full length here. I'll probably just weld along to there, and then maybe 1.5 inches here. And the same at the front here. I think I'll just weld, you know, 1.5 inches here, 1.5 inches here, and well, probably the full length there, because it, you know, it really doesn't need it. So that's what it looks like. I can tap that back in a little bit, actually. That's better. Okay, and you can see that I like using RHS because it's got rounded corners, and you know, you don't have to grind any away to give you a gap to be able to get a full penetration weld. Okay, well, that's 2 legs on. Let's see if they work. This thing's getting really heavy. Okay, so there it is, fully welded up. And so if you're building a MAXI CNC router, your router chassis should look something like this when you've got to this stage. I've got steer wheels that actually lock. Not only do they lock from turning, but they lock in a position that they can't turn bodily as well. But it makes it completely maneuverable. As indeed all my machines are on wheels in the workshop, so I can move them around for filming purposes. So now all I've got to do is clean all this up, and with the angle grinder and the wire brush, and then at this stage I'm going to paint it. So I don't think you'll want to see me painting this. I'm just going to do it with aerosol cans blue, as in this colour, which I think is quite nice. So there you are. Now this so far is about probably 160 to 170 kilos. It is heavier than I imagined, but it is absolutely solid. It is more solid, I suppose, than well, you know, if you buy one in like a kit form with extruded aluminium main parts. Well, this is 10 times stiffer, and that's what you want in a CNC router. You need it to be stiff and stable. So that's why I designed the MAXI router in steel this far. Of course, the gantry is extruded aluminium. You need that to be lighter but still stiff. So if you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. I've gone as far as I can go with this now. And just to remind you that the drawings and all the specifications and all the pricing and where I bought my parts from for this build is on my Patron pages. The link to my Patron page is below this video in the description area. Next time we're actually going to be making the gantry. Might sound odd, make the gantry next? What I'm going to do is use the gantry structure to line up the rails perfectly on here and drill and tap into this and then lock the both rails down. I'll probably lock one rail down first and then the other rail to make sure between the y-axis rails, is what these are, and the gantry itself runs perfectly true and in line. So thank you for joining me, and it's bye for now.